Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And so
It's perfect. It's like
it's not in image, so
no,
it's okay.
you can.
I show here cardboard walls, and it's developed in Japan 2 years after the Fukushima crisis, catastrophe. And it started with making kind of reconstruction of an evacuation center in the direct aftermath of the disaster, which was made of kind of a cardboard, very simple, basic structure, like a first beginning of a new architecture, something where people had a private place and not at all a private place, so a very kind of complex, loaded situation. In these places, the staff of TEPCO, the company that owns the Fukushima power plant, came to apologize. And this moment of apologizing is kind of central in the film, but it's also loaded, charged with other more fictional moments. So it floats between a kind of a documentary reconstruction and a kind of a blurred memory. But I don't treat actors basically different from non-actors, actually. I rather equalize between them. I prepare very carefully the given situation, so there's the location, the way they're dressed. The whole thing has a kind of strength and kind of clarity. But then, on the moment we shoot, I try to go within the situation into a kind of a little bit way of a collective process with the people. And that moment is really essential, because that's a moment where even if it's completely absurd or completely artificial, clearly artificial, it still has some kind of, on that moment, in that specific situation, it represents kind of a reality of the relationships between the people. So that's also where this kind of documentary feeling that sometimes pops up gets in. And that is for me extremely important, because then it means it's what is being addressed and in the people is also, it means coming from their bodies as well as a response to the given situation. It's not that they're acting a role completely. That moment interests me where it starts to change into its opposite, and where the given situation is not experienced necessarily as a given anymore. It's just a possibility. It can only take place once. These moments are collected and it cannot be repeated. It's in a way a choreography of the accidental. We think we are individualized, but I don't think we are. So I think it's kind of a complete misconception of how we behave. I mean, there's automatized behavior in it, but it's the exception that is popping up all the time. So it's a very direct dialogue between individualism and collectivism. And that's, of course, the big question in society we always have to answer. I mean, the big question is, of course, what is the community? You know, it's just a complete open question that cannot answer. Where could be the community? Because this is completely somehow... I think we take collective things are taking place, but the awareness is not there. And this is a huge question: how can we live together, really? Kafka has been an important figure for me. And when I started many years ago, I was a reference in a way. I mean, the two things are very important: becoming animal is in Kafka, but also the image of the gesture. I mean, there are always these moments, like almost frozen moments of gesture in his writings. I mean, I think there is narration in my works, and actually during the years more narration, but they're never complete narration. They're always broken, so it's traces of narration. This kind of non-completing is very important, because the narration don't bring you somewhere. All the time in return actually to the situation as a state of being, a state of a field of tensions that is taking place. So it's in the end following up of images, of a way of, let's say, dialectical images that are kind of have a tension with them, that they keep active. And if there is narration, it's them in a way to bring you there, or to leave certain moments in your imprint and in your memory that are kind of image moments. The sound is not, of course, supporting the narration, but of course there is sound, because there's sound in the space. I don't think I'm making films or videos, I'm making spaces, and there are encounters between let's say, encounters between two groups of people that are visitors and that are groups of people that appear in the videos. This feeling, this effect on your own body is very important in relation to looking at the work, but also in relation to the whole situation of how you look at the work and in relation to the others that are looking at the work. There is a awareness of your own body, there's awareness of the body in the image, and there's also awareness of the space and of the other viewers. So there's a kind of a triangle taking place of awareness, and that is also what makes you a player in it. And there's a double experience of physically approached, also by the cardboard constructions I'm making here, that you kind of, that has a sculptural pushes kind of something on your body. You're kind of enveloped by it. I mean, disorients your body, but also pushes towards you, makes you kind of enveloped in it. That you have to position yourself, even if it is a very, very fragile moment of positioning. It's not a one screen, it's a split video. That activity that goes from screen to screen and outside of the screen, that is kind of an energy I'm looking for. I mean, what is for me important about the camera and the cameras, actually, because it's always often a multiplication, is that they are able to create some kind of indifference. They can create some kind of democracy of the moment. They can drift away when you think something might be really important. It kind of drifts away to something is in the periphery of it, and that moment is almost like equal. And that is very much what the cameras have to do. They have to kind of dig into the whole situation of also kind of sculpturally, physically how it's present. It's not just that person sitting and shouting or doing something, but it's that fact that next to this person there are two bags or a mattress, and that is there in a way equally there. This constant shifting from periphery to what could be center. I mean, they stop being both, but that shifting and this kind of, by this getting an awareness of the totalness of what is taking place, that is kind of the reason that they behave like this. The Dutch painting was showing the things from people on the streets. The idea of the gesture is very strongly in the painting, and the simultaneousness of different events at the same time. So this compression of an image that contains kind of a variation, a multiplication of events and gestures that are in a way on an even balance with each other. I can strongly see it. I mean, I never intended it to be, but I realized that is kind of close. I refer more to the information we get about what is taking place and less about, let's say, the history of film. But at the same time, this border in our consciousness is so blurred at the same time that it's hard to tell, even if you would say I'm strictly making video and I'm filming it and I have a duration in it, that so it's not just a flash of an information, every duration. So it's always somehow at some level connects subtly to film. If you say, let's say, film is maybe more the fictional side of our collective imagery and memory. So even if I would kind of pretend to be outside of it, I probably will never be completely outside of it. I don't know. I try to find out who I am. I don't know. It's a long process. As some kind of receptor and producer.